All right. Hello, 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 fellow growth enthusiasts, and welcome to the Grow Up with Grow show. This is your show for the CEOs, for the VCs, for the chief revenue officers, and for the CMOs as we talk about growth for B2B tech companies, and growth for our community as a whole. I'm Brett Sklar, managing partner at Grow Powerful, where we've assembled the greatest growth minds in all of B2B tech. I'm joined by the man with the better mic, the better camera system, and the only guy here who actually knows what he's talking about, Mark Cafiero.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talking with you, Brett.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'll talk about a little bit that we're here to talk about something that I think every CEO needs to hear about. And that's that every CEO needs to start thinking like a studio head. And it's an interesting proposition, but we'll dive into the reasons why. And then, as always, today's show is designed specifically for CEOs, but I think that CROs, investors, and other fractional CMOs, as well as CMOs, will get a whole lot out of this show as well. And just a quick show reminder, we're live streamed. We're on our podcast, our YouTube channel, our blog. We're basically everywhere. We're even on LinkedIn newsletters. So we hope that you subscribe and join with us in any of the channels that you wish. So if you've got questions or comments, we're listening to all the feeds, no matter what feeds, and we love to hear comments and get comments and share those ideas and respond in all the things. So Mark, let's dive in. How did you become the person who's making it easy for companies to become an overnight studio sensation? What is your origin story?
Oh boy, let me just tell you my whole life story. I'm going to give you the super condensed version here because that could take a while. I'm from Colorado. I spent my entire life in Colorado. And to give you some background in terms of where my interest comes from, my passion for creating, video content, it goes back to when I was 13 and my mom gave me a camera. It was a film camera. It was a Canon AE1. And she said, if you can figure this thing out, you can have it. And so almost instantly, I was just kind of known as the kid with the camera. I brought that thing with me everywhere. I was obsessed with capturing images. And that was just kind of something that really resonated with me and my personality for some reason. Maybe it was because I was a shy person growing up. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of express myself. This followed me throughout high school. It followed me throughout college. I got my degree in marketing. I didn't really enter the traditional workforce until much later in my life.
And then we'll obviously get into where it brought you to today, which is a pretty amazing platform that you have, a pretty amazing service that you have that can turn every company into a studio. And that is Switchr, SWITCHR, and Switchr.live if you want to check it out. And that sort of leads us into the topic today, which is, why today's marketing successes are born in the studio. And I got excited to have you on the show. I got excited to have you here because I have been saying this I'll call it forever, but probably for the last 18 months to 2 years, especially in the B2B technology world, that a content marketing program is not enough. You really have to have that video. You have to have that audio. We live in the world of dog walks and podcasts, drive time and podcast, or taking a break or cooking a meal and having a podcast, in your ear. We are all watching videos and more specifically the shorter, short form videos, whether it be, YouTube shorts or short things you put on your website or things you send out in email, or even TikTok has gotten us, loving and living in the short form video world. With all this going on, and obviously, we know that YouTube is the second largest search engine that's out there, second only to Google, which is also, their sugar daddy, that is one of the same. That video is unbelievably important and audio is unbelievably important. And here we are with you and building something that I think is pretty awesome. So let's sort of dive into the conversation and what got you doing this? Why start in the studio? Why go there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that when I did put myself on the fast track into the corporate marketing world one of the first things that I noticed is that the video content, and this is, this was not long ago, and hasn't really changed much, but the video content was just, it was tired, it was lame and boring. We were, the company that I was with, a big fintech company, we were delivering webinars that were just kind of a recorded like WebEx thing. And I just felt like, man, we could do so much better, especially at the size that we're at. And so I got permission to build a studio in the headquarters that we can record live streams, just kind of like what we're doing here, and just better content in general, mostly thought leadership. One thing that we did that's significant is that we surveyed our customers because I needed proof that what we were doing was going to be valuable. So we sent a 1-question survey to all of our customers. And the question was simple. It was, how do you prefer to consume your content? Do you prefer to read your content like through a blog? Do you prefer to watch videos? Do you prefer to listen to podcasts, A, B, or C? The response we got was profound because it was a perfect even split. It was literally 1/3 of our audience preferred to consume content through reading blogs, 1/3 watching videos, and the other third likes to listen to podcasts. And so what we realized, we were really only building blogs at that point. We realized that we're not serving 2/3 of our customers the type of content that they prefer to consume. So that was all the justification that we needed to get moving. And again, this is years ago. I'm sure that right now, at the rate of which video and podcasts are growing, there's a lot more demand for that type of content.
Okay. And then there's so much other stuff that you can do with that content as well, right? I mean, we live in a world where it's, you can do one thing and that one thing can turn into 10 to 15 to 20 different things, which is kind of the impetus behind Switchr, right?
It is.
And I don't want to steal your thunder here, so I apologize, but it's taking that one asset and turning it into many assets.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that the way a lot of businesses operate right now when it comes to building content is it's very siloed. So you have, we've got a video strategy. If they have that, we want to build some video for our YouTube channel. And then over here, we've got our writers, they're creating blog content. Okay, great. What's on the calendar for that? And then we've got a social team, show us what kind of social content we've got on the calendar. They're all separated. When you look at that, it's not a very efficient way of producing content. Yeah. So when you start thinking about things a little bit differently, what if we really focus our first place of building content is in the studio? Because here's what you can do once you start building content in the studio first. Well, let me back up. If you were to try to take a blog post and try to use that to create video content, it's like you're doing twice the work. But if you start in the studio, and let's just, as one example of many, planning like a thought leadership type of conversation. You're going to have an expert in, you've got a host, just kind of like what we're doing here today, and recording that content as a starting point. Once you've done that, you've got this asset that is pretty much a long form video asset. From that single long form video asset, you can have it transcribed. The transcription could be sent over to your copywriters. Suddenly, instead of having, what's average like a 2,000 word blog post, you have a 30 word, hour-long conversation that has been transcribed. And now your writer's job is to break it up, find the key takeaways, create links to those takeaways, and really just write like a 300 word intro that leads into the transcription. So that's really valuable content, a lot of words and a lot of relevant content as well. So suddenly the writer has less on his or her plate, and they're getting a bigger like output. So that's just one example.
Okay.
The other things that you can do from this long form video, and I'm sure we'll do it with this, is cut out like up to 5 or more 2 to 4 minute, 2 to 6 minute short form video content pieces. And why that's important is because when you have a lot of people who might be interested in watching that full length video, there's a lot of people out there who are just trying to look for the nuggets that came out of that. Yep. So then you've got this collection of short form video that you can plug into your YouTube playlist. gives your audience an opportunity to see the value that you're providing quickly. It keeps them sticking around your YouTube channel more. You get more average view duration, which is a metric that really helps your YouTube channel to perform better. So there's a lot of value with that.
Yeah.
And then within those 2 to 6 minute clips, you've got the 15 to second social reels that you can plug into your social channels. And then also, you can even take a thought leadership recording, even a product demo, hand those highlights over to an illustrator and build out like an infographic or ebook or something. So
yeah, and I love that. And that's sort of the anchor to get people to click to go look at the video or go to a landing page or something like that so they can understand your frame of mind. And what I love about this is not new. Thought leadership and expressing your opinions, your thoughts to gain people's trust has been around since the beginning of newspapers, has been around in magazines, has been in industry publications. It's just that as paper dies, it's moving to online and more like blogs. And now what you're able to do is turn that into video content and audio content before it becomes the blog. And so it's much more efficient. And so we're not reinventing how people establish trust with a company. We're just adding channels and optimizing the way that we can get to all of those channels automagically. And maybe it's not really automagic, but the work that you and Switchr, are able to do can turn it into something much more, automatic for the company, for the CMO, for the CEO, for the content team who is thinking they may have to outsource this to people who don't understand it because of cost reasons, or hire people and it be incredibly costly. And here you are with a quality program that actually, is effective and efficient, but also incredible level of quality for companies. Yeah, I don't mean to toot your horn, but I am really excited about, seeing what you do and how it works. I guess the question for you though is, if I'm wearing my, I'm the content leader and I'm the one that's responsible for driving thought leadership, how do I plan this out? And how is it planned out in a different way than when I was doing blog posts and social media posts, before?
Yeah, again, where traditionally marketers are pretty siloed, you have to kind of look at things a little bit differently. So instead of saying, okay, what are we going to plan for this month on social? What are we going to plan for this month on our blog? What we need to do is combine our efforts, decide what our goals are for the month. What's the key content that we're trying to create? And then just know that we're going to start in the studio. This actually, sounds simple, but it takes a lot of adjustment from your team. If you're solely relying on your team to do all of this stuff, to start thinking about things a little bit different. So it is different. Thinking about, what are the search terms that we want to try to rank for? These are all considerations that we need to put into the planning for our video, for our interviews, because ultimately what we're going to do is have that converted into written content. So we have to actually think about that for video. And then we have to have a plan. So our team, we have a team, a very unique team that takes that video content, and we have all these different handoffs so we can turn all that content around very quickly. But things that we have to think about: are we building content to drive organic traffic, or are we building content for our customers? Are we recording an announcement or sales enablement? And, really, how is this going to satisfy all of our needs? But I will tell you that having video, having audio, having like illustrative type of content and blog content, it applies to anything that you do choose to record.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really good to know. So let's get into the brass tacks. Let's get into talking about how this works, and specifically, what does the production look like? What does the production feel like?
Well, we always encourage people to really invest into a studio setup, and whether that's a basic, one camera, 3 lights, and a microphone, we definitely recommend investing a little bit in that, because YouTube is saturated with video content. We all know that. We know that there are a million podcasts out there. Some of us are going for a really polished looks, and some of us actually like to kind of show that we're savvy and a little bit scrappy and all of that. But no matter what you're going for, you need to be able to stand out from the competition. So from the people who are out there with really like cheap equipment, who are recording low grade video content, the easiest opportunity to stand out right off the bat is just to improve that quality. So, and honestly, it doesn't take as big of an investment as many people think. It takes a little bit of know-how and knowledge of what kind of equipment is best. But that's first and foremost. The second thing about the production experience, I always think that no matter what you're recording, whether it's an interview like this or a product demo, it's always great to have a host and an expert. So let's use like a product demo, for example. You've got a product engineer who's showing you how to do things, and you have a host who's setting them up for the different, features that they'd like to highlight. Having two people is something that we always encourage as well. And then, also just making sure that you have all of your settings set up correctly so that once you're done recording, you have all of your different assets that you can put together in post to create a really nice asset. Again, this is all the work that we do at Switchr, is all of that complicated post work, but there are certain things that you could do. Like if you're just recording a Zoom call, different settings, different things that you need to check off so that you get all the files that you need to create those assets.
Yep. Got it. Okay. So, and let's just sort of recap on that, because a lot of people, we all think that we're now audio video experts because we've been watching Apple, product launches, and, all we need is a good camera phone or a good, webcam and whatever else, and we're good to go. And the reality is it needs a little bit more intentionality and thought to it. And that's something that you can offer. And so Switchr doesn't just do the production work on the content or the work on the content, but we'll also go and help set up these studios so that people have a more professional look and feel.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I was going to say is that there are a couple of other things to consider. So, live events versus simulive. So Brett, you have an amazing capability to capture this and stream it live. And that's a specialized capability that just not everyone has. One thing I like to just tell people is that if you don't have that capability, or if it just tends to overwhelm you, it's just one more thing to think about. Another alternative to being simulive is to being live is being simulive. And simulive means that you're essentially recording, presenting it live.
Right.
And when I say that we're presenting it as a live stream, it doesn't mean that we're trying to trick anyone out there. In fact, it's always good practice just to be honest with your audience that, this is pre-recorded, but it gives you an opportunity to be live as a moderator. And the neat thing about simulive is that you can essentially be the moderator of your own podcast in real time, answering questions in chat and so on. So that's just another consideration that I wanted to put out there.
Got it. Okay. And I think it does help with being authentic and building the trust if you let people know, that if it might be recorded live, but it might not be happening at the exact time. Whether it's a 3-second delay so cuss words can be bleeped out or whatever else reason it is, there's always good reasons. So it's almost like your process is really, instead of thinking of like the story, you've obviously got a storyline, you've got somewhat of a script, but instead of thinking of it as an outline for a article or a blog post or a white paper, you think of it more as a show, an outline for a show. And then you turn it into, you take that show and turn it into the written content. So talk to me about, because that's sort of a different approach and almost reverse of what a lot of people think in today's B2B technology, content marketing teams and programs. So once the show is done, what happens? What do we do? How do we do that?
Yeah, I want to back up because one really important piece of this whole thing is building out a conversation map for the interview, because that conversation map, not only is that going to be something that will guide you through the story that you're trying to tell, it'll make sure that you don't miss out any of the key talking points that you're trying to capture. That conversation map is something that you can hand off to the writer along with the transcript. So after you're done recording, you get a transcript of the video hand that off to your writer along with the conversation map. And the reason why this is important is because the conversation map that you have designed has those key takeaways. That gives your writer the ability to very quickly find those spots within the video, and in the transcription, break that up into chapters. It's also really important because you hand all of that over to the video editor, and they know exactly where to go to capture the key, like short form video that you're looking to capture, and that you don't miss any of that. It's also valuable when you're trying to build out like your YouTube playlist. So what we encourage our clients to do is to think about your YouTube playlist as the go-to place where people can find the key value points that you're trying to drive from your product and from your brand, and allow them to find the value points that resonate with them more closely, and to find all of those little video segments that they're looking for. And then also this translates out to the illustrative content as well. Again, I think that infographics are highly underrated. This gives you the visual cliff notes of the entire conversation. And so again, from that conversation map, those are the key takeaways, the little details that they can highlight in illustrative format. Just really another valuable asset to have.
Oh, I love that you offer that. And infographics had their heyday a couple of years ago, and they kind of went by the wayside when it came to video. And I think video sort of got rid of that. But there is a fantastic place for an infographic. And I think it belongs in the feeds. It belongs in, a blog post to really visually articulate for the more visual learners. And visual learners don't necessarily mean video learners. And so you're really covering all the bases of getting people informed. So I love the illustrated content. I am a huge fan of infographics. What are some other types of illustrative content that that you can do for people?
Yeah, I'd say probably the top 3 out there are infographics, little digital flip books. Maybe you've seen these where you can, they're online, you click and you can just it's almost like reading a story page by page.
Yep.
Which is cool. And then your traditional ebooks. And so ebooks, again, this is like a downloadable piece. Maybe it comes through as a PDF, but it gives your audience, especially the readers and the lookers, an opportunity to find things in a more like appealing manner than simply reading a blog post. But I also wanted to point out that the blog post can include all of these things, because you can cut out little snippets from your infographic, insert those in your blog post. If you're really trying to make like an important piece for your customers, you can have the little shorts and you can sprinkle those out throughout your blog post as well. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah, more reason to have it.
Love that. Okay. So it's really cool. You've laid out for our audience basically a how-to guide and all the things to think through. And it's a step-by-step guide of how to really create your own studio and the process to follow and flow. So, people could say, I learned enough, I'm going to go try to do this on my own. And that's awesome. There's probably also people who say this all sounds really cool and above my pay grade. So if someone were going to help me out, maybe someone like the team at Switchr, what would the process look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, backing up to what you just said, I am always happy to have a conversation no matter what. So if anyone wants to call us and just have a conversation, I will tell you as much as I can about how you can, set up your own company for success. So all for like one complimentary call to do that.
It's funny. My saying used to be before the pandemic that everybody is worth a 30-minute cup of coffee. Now I say that everybody is worth at least a 15-minute Zoom call. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah. And it is a process, and it does require, time to get it working like a machine. And that's really what we've created at Switchr, is this machine. We have a team of writers, video editors, audio engineers, illustrators, and Photoshop experts. And we have this process dialed. We literally, in 2 weeks, once we start working with a client, you send us a 45-minute to an hour-long video, and in 2 weeks, we will create up to 20 different types of assets for our clients, because we have the handoffs all figured out. We've got the process dialed in. It takes a lot of time to work out that process to where it truly does work like a machine, the way that we've done it. So again, the exciting part about this is if you're a company and you're just a little bit low on resources, maybe inflation and the costs are causing you to scale back a little bit, this is a great opportunity because we can create far more content more quickly than it would take if you actually had a full like in-house creative team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And obviously people can talk to you individually about what that would look like, but this is a way for, people who are responsible for demand generation, for awareness building, for establishing and building trust with a brand. This is a great way for people to, turbocharge what they are doing today with a blog, to turbocharge what they might be doing with recordings, whether it's a long podcast or a long video. This really is the entire package. And so it's that one thing that you do that could turn into 20 different assets or more, just sort of depending on how long it is and what it is, and et cetera, et cetera. So, I think that's just amazing and that's impressive.
It's been my passion project for the past 10 years. And I've been refining this. I've been in the corporate workforce working for tech companies, and it's just refining it consistently over and over and over again. And I feel very excited and blessed that we have been able to kind of create this program that does one thing really, really well. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, that's awesome. And so if people want to take you up on that, conversation to call you and sort of brainstorm or to see what you can do for them, what's the best way for them to connect with you and to learn about the turbocharged power that Switchr can offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say just go to our website. It's switchr.live. I'll spell it because it is kind of a funny spelling. SWITCHR. So there's no E in there, .live. And so there's a contact form there. I'm going to probably in the next week or so add a Calendly link to that.
Perfect.
So that'll make it easier if you want to schedule a complimentary call. But for now, just use that contact form and I'll get right back to you.
Awesome. Well, Mark, really appreciate you sharing your insights, your wisdom. I do think that it is a waste and it's foolish for people to not really think about themselves as a studio, having that studio capability, whether they do it themselves or they find someone like you who can really do an efficient and effective job at it. So that's really it. That's the show. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you will go and convince every CEO, if you're not a CEO, to go and become a studio head of your own company, of your own volition. And we thank you very much for being a part of this. As always, you can visit us at growpowerful.io. You can subscribe to the Grow Up with Grow, show on your favorite podcasts. Look for us on YouTube. Follow our newsletter on LinkedIn. We've always got some great fun things going on there. And that's about it. So thank you, everyone. And we hope you have a great, great day.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett.